Okay, so in this video, we're going to look at how you can work with and change symbology for vector layers in ArcGIS Online. Note that if you symbolize vector data and then publish those as hosted feature layers from ArcGIS Pro, the symbology should carry along. However, there are some situations where the symbology may not work. I generally prefer to get my symbology the way that I want it in Art Pro and then publish it over and then make any changes I want using the styles in Arc Online as necessary. But that's something you should know how to do if you've already had a GIS course and you've worked around with cartography and layer symbology and whatnot. So in this video, I'm not going to focus on that. Instead, I'm going to focus on using some of the symbology options in ArcGIS in ArcGIS Online, and specifically the smart mapping methodology that's implemented. Okay, so I'm going to pull in a layer that just has a lot of attributes that we can work with. Okay, so I'm going to pull in this county health rankings data set, which is made available via the Living Atlas by the Esri Demographics team. So this is not my layer. I'm just loading in a layer that Esri provided, and we're just going to play around with this. Okay, so as you can see here, it comes in with a default or a preset symbology. This is showing the health ranking is percent poor or fair health. So it looks like the darker the let's see here, the dark purples are higher than the national average, and then the lower the national average tends to be the wider gray areas, and the light purples are kind of close to the national average. So you can kind of see kind of the spatial trends there in health rankings at the county level. Okay, so if we want to change the symbology for this, first off, you need to make sure the thing you're interested in is clicked on in the layers list. We only have one layer here, so that's pretty easy. And then we want to change the symbology. And now I'm actually realizing that this is not the right layer because it's not allowing us to change the symbology at all. So I need to go back in here and find a version of this that we can edit. So let me go here again to Living Atlas, and this is not what I expected, but I think it's kind of interesting because how things are published can impact what you can do with them. So if it's a feature layer, it should work for us. Let's just try this one and see if it'll let us. It's a feature layer also. Not really sure why it's not letting us, but it's not. Maybe I need to save it. Let me try saving the map real quick and see if that matters. Health rankings. It shouldn't, but maybe it does. We'll just save that. Alright, so let's go back here. Let's see. There we go. I think. Nope, still not letting us. Oh, you know what? I know what I'm doing wrong. It's because this is multiple layers, so they change by scale. So I needed to actually go in here and click on county, right? So there's these sub layers that draw different visibility scales, and then when I do that, I should get back the styles. So that's kind of dumb, but I think I'm going to leave that in because that's a common mistake, you know. So if you want to, we're having to change the symbology for each of these layers separately. So if you click on the layer that holds these sub layers, it's not going to let you change anything. Okay, so I'll leave that. All right, so now let's look at how changing symbology. So if we go to styles here, this will allow us to set the symbology. Now what pops up here is going to depend on the attributes that you want to show. So right now, we only have one attribute. So it's basically showing us things that we could use if we only have one attribute that we want to show. So right now, we're basically doing counts and amounts using color. So this is effectively like a choropleth map. Another option is we could use the size of a symbol, right? So this is a continuous variable, so we could use size to display it, right? So that's not super effective in this case. I'm just trying to show you some of the different symbology options. Here we have a dot density, so a higher density of dots would indicate a kind of a worse health outcome. Again, not super effective, I don't think, in this case either. We don't have types or anything, so that really doesn't make sense. Note that if you remove the field that you're wanting to show, then the only option is basically just the location once it loads here. So if you've got no attributes that you want to show, then it's just going to assign a symbol. Now, if you want to change that symbol, you can obviously. So you could do the style options here and change the symbol and whatnot. We'll talk about that once we kind of settled on something. All right, so let's look at a couple other options here. Let's see if we've got any. Here's a county ranked, yes or no. So that would be a categorical variable, right? So let's just add that one. So now we should be able to use something that is types or unique, right? So this is just differentiating the two types that we have, which are ones that were ranked. In this case, that would be the red ones, and then the blue ones were counties that were not ranked, right? So a categorical variable that we're showing using color. All right, let's get rid of that field, and let's just add a couple fields this time. So we want to do, let's do poor physical health days, and then we'll also add in, let's see if we've got anything. We'll just do premature deaths. So you might think there might be a correlation between those two things. All right, so we have two things here right now. And by default, what it did was it used color to show one variable, in this case, the poor physical health days. And then it used the size of the symbol to show the other continuous variable, in this case, the premature deaths. So another way we could do this would be like a binary choropleth map, which is this relationships option. So this basically uses two color ramps to display two continuous variables. So in this case, the shades of orange are related to the premature deaths, and the shades of blue are related to the poor physical health days, right? So if it's at the top of the diamond here, that means it's high for both. If it's down here, it's low for both. If it's up here, it's high for premature deaths, but low for the poor physical health days, and then vice versa for this blue side of the curve. So, or of the diamond. So anyway, that allows you to look at kind of the relationship between two continuous variables. Okay, let's change it. I don't know if I have any other, we'll leave poor physical health days in there. I don't know if there are any other categorical variables in here. These are more counts. Yeah, I don't think I really have any other. Yeah, that's probably fine. So anyway, the point of this is that if you have a bunch of attributes, how you could appropriately or effectively symbolize those attributes is going to depend on, first off, how many attributes it is that you want to show. And then secondly, what are those attributes? Are they continuous variables? Are they continuous variables that are normalized? They're not normalized? Are they categorical variables? So on and so forth. Okay, so that was an example just of like playing around with smart symbology. Let's actually get rid of this layer because we're not going to use it anymore. And I'm going to add something in from my own data. Here I just want to kind of play around with actually specifying colors and whatnot. Let's see here. I wanted to pull in some data from, let's see. Here we go. So these are a bunch of sample points that some students collected for different land cover categories. So these are point measurements. Right now it came in as location only, so every feature gets a unique symbol. You can do like a heat map, which is kind of like the density of the measurements. So you can see where there were lots of points collected versus not a lot of points collected. So I'm going to go in here and add an attribute, and what we want to add is the land cover class. Okay, so this should now provide a unique color for each of our different categories. So we've got grass, conifer forest, water, deciduous forest, developed, and barren lands. Now, they assign some colors that maybe don't make a lot of sense. So the next thing we might want to do is change those colors, right? So if I go, sorry, I did that kind of quick. So if we go to style options here, then we can specify what we want to show. It also gives you the count for of how many there are in each group, right? So if we click on change symbol here, so like for grass, we could maybe do something that's more like a yellowish symbol. So maybe like a light yellow or something. You can even put in hex codes or set RGB values, 8-bit RGB values if you want. You can use this color selector. I'm going to go with that for now. Done. All right, conifer forest. Let's make that like a green, maybe like a kind of a light green color. We'll make the water like a blue. Kind of makes sense. A light blue. Deciduous forest. Again, like maybe a darker green. So it contrasts with the other type of forest. Developed, we'll maybe make like a red color, like a light red. Something like, let's see, like that. And barren, we can maybe make like a gray color. And done. Right, so there I've picked a symbology, or I've added a field, picked a type of symbology, and then once I had that, I went in and I edited the symbols that I want to use. In this case, it was just color. Note that there are some other things you can do. Like right now, it's just a basic symbol, but you could change it to another shape. You could change it into, there's a bunch of preset symbols here that you could use. Note that some of the symbols are like more raster-based symbols and some are more vector-based symbols. So if you go to vector symbols, for example, those are vector graphics. So there's lots of options there for the types of symbols that you can apply. We'll just leave these as dots there because that kind of makes sense for this use case. All right, so anyway, that's just an example of working with the smart mapping for showing different attributes and then actually changing out symbology using Arc Online.